Hello everybody, welcome to another Yellow Chair devotional. Let's take some time to do another easy, quick science experiment together. Then we're going to talk about it and look in our Bibles and see what else we can learn about God, the master scientist. So for this one, we're going to make ourselves a boat, but it's going to be a simple boat. Now think about maybe boats that you've been on. Maybe you're going, well, I haven't really been on any fancy boats. What about a kayak or even a paddleboard, right? It doesn't take anything really fancy, but all of the boats that we think of have something in common. When we go into a rowboat, a motorboat, a kayak, a canoe, a raft, whatever that boat might be, we have faith that that boat isn't going to sink, right? When we step into that boat, maybe with a canoe or a kayak, we're careful, we're balancing, and then we sit down and we take off, but we're floating on that water, aren't we? Right? That's what a boat is supposed to do. It's a pretty powerful force, the fact that that boat doesn't sink. Now, there can always be things that happen. Your boat gets a leak, and then the water stuff starts coming in, or you could be like the Titanic where it hits an iceberg and that ship went down even though it was called unsinkable. But for the most part, the purpose of a boat is to float and carry you in the water. So we believe that when we get in a boat, it's going to float. So here's what we're gonna do. We're making a very simple boat. I've got some cardboard here, and this is actually from a cereal box because you see how it's pretty thin. It's not corrugated. It's not like the Amazon box cardboard where you can kind of see the ridges and you can smush it together. We want a cardboard that isn't going to absorb a ton of water too fast, because that corrugated stuff, it tends to be a sponge, and then what happens? Sink. So all I'm gonna do is let's see here. We're not gonna make a fancy boat. Let's see, there's the front of my boat. I'm just gonna cut the front of my boat. Then it almost looks like a house, doesn't it? It's not very even, but that's okay. But we're gonna steer our ship, so in the back, I'm gonna cut out a little triangle. All right, what do you think? Are you thinking boat when you think of this? Probably not. Now, let me bring the camera down. So I've got a tray here with some water in it, and then I've got some dish soap. So I'm gonna take the lid off of my soap here, and I'm just gonna pour a little into my lid. And then I'm gonna take a toothpick. Okay, so I've just got a little bit of dish soap in my lid. I've got my toothpick. I've got my very complex, fancy schmancy boat. And now I'm gonna dip my toothpick here in the soap, and in that little spot in the back, I'm going to put my soap on it. I'm just gonna line it with the soap. All right, shall we see how it floats? Ready? My goodness, not only does it float, but it travels. Did you see that? It took off and went. Let's do it again. All right, I'm gonna need some more soap. So if I were just to put, here, let's just put one of my scraps. If I just put a scrap of my cardboard in my water, it does float, right? But it doesn't go anywhere, it's just hanging out. But yet, my boat, when I put that soap on there, it starts to set sail. Now, what do you think is happening here? Well, when we think about what soap does, right? I could do this over and over until my cardboard starts getting too sticky or too soggy, okay? What's happening here? Here's another one that I made earlier that's a little bit drier, so I'm gonna show you again. You can kind of see I've got some soap bubbles sitting here on the top of my water. When you're helping with dishes, right? Because we should all be helping do the dishes. That soap likes to sit on the top of the water. Now see, my water's already got too much soap in it, so now it's not gonna go anywhere, okay? So we've gotta dump our water and start with clean, because the soap is the key. Okay, so what that soap is doing when you think of when you help do the dishes, soap bubbles will sit on top of water, right? They will float. And it breaks what we would call the surface tension. All right, so here's my new pan of water. Let's see if this one will work now. Okay, so let's put my soap on there. And, oh, it's gonna go right into the wall. Go that way. And there it goes. So see, I needed that fresh water. What happens is, soap is what we would call, excuse me, a I'm not gonna say it right. I gotta look at my note. A surfactant, right? Surface. It breaks the surface. Surfactant. All water has a surface temperature, right? If I come up to my pan of water or a bathtub and I press down, I'm stronger, so I can press through that water. But if I were just to hover my hand above the water here and just slowly press down, the water's gonna push back on me. It's got that water pressure. It's got that surface tension. But that soap breaks through the surface tension and it makes our boat sail. Now you could do a lot of other boat related things. We could take some tin foil and I could say, build me a boat that isn't gonna sink. And you could go with your tin foil and start building and building and building your boat. And then maybe we see how many marbles or how many pennies, how many washers, whatever you got laying around, will your boat hold until it sinks, until finally it breaks through that tension. But when we think about breaking through the surface tension of the water, it's because there's a force. There's a force that's created. And when that surface tension is broken, when that soap hits it, the force created makes movement, right? A force and energy, and it propels our boat. Now, I kind of like the word surface tension because I'm thinking about the word tension. Have you ever been in a circumstance or a scenario where it's been tense? Have you ever been like, oh, we might use the word awkward. Oh, it's a little awkward. It's tense. Or maybe I feel like tension is even worse than just being awkward. It's like, oh man, something's got to change or this could be a big mess. Well, there's a story in the Bible in Mark chapter 4 that involves a boat and it involves a tense moment. Mark chapter 4 verse 35 says, that evening Jesus said to his followers, come with me across the lake. He and the followers left the people there and they went in the boat that Jesus was already sitting in. There were also other boats with them. A very strong wind came up on the lake. The waves began coming over the sides and into the boat. It was almost full of water. Jesus, though, was at the back of the boat, sleeping with his head on a pillow. The followers went to him and woke him up. They said, teacher, do you care about us? We will drown. Jesus stood up and commanded the wind and the waves to stop. He said, quiet, be still. Then the wind stopped and the lake became calm. Jesus said to his followers, why are you afraid? Do you have no faith? The followers were very afraid and asked each other, what kind of man is this, for even the wind and the waves obey him? Man, there's a storm. There's a storm and Jesus is sleeping in the back because the storm isn't bothering him. He knows that they're safe, right? He's got faith in that boat, but these fishermen, those disciples, certainly are not having faith in that moment. They think the water is coming into the boat, we're going down. They forgot that their Savior Jesus was in the boat with them. That was a tense moment, especially since they wake up Jesus and what do they say? They don't say, Jesus, will you help us? Here, have an oar. Help us row. Here, help us with the sail. They don't say, help us. What do they say? Teacher, do you care about us? Now, does Jesus care? Oh, think of that old hymn. Oh, yes, he cares. I know he cares. Yes, Jesus cares. They're so afraid that they're lashing out at Jesus. Have you ever felt like that? where you're just so upset, you're afraid, you're going through a storm in life, and you just lash out at Jesus. God, do you even care? It's a tense moment, right? That's a tense moment in that boat. And what does Jesus say? He doesn't go into a debate with the disciples. He stands up and he commands the wind and the waves to stop. Excuse me. He said, "Quiet, be still." And the wind stopped and the lake became calm. And that's what he does in the storms of our life. We might come after him and we might attack and we might say, "Do you even care?" Yes. We don't need to make it any more tense than it already is. We know that God cares. We say, "God, you care about this. Please help." And we know that he will. He will command the storms in our lives to stop. Now, it might not look like what we expect, right? We've probably all gone to God with prayer requests, with concerns, with worries, with stresses, and we like to tell God how we think God should fix it, right? We like to be like, "Here's how the experiment works, God. I make my boat this way, and then I put it on the water, and then it should go. Here's what's going on in my life, and here's how you should fix it," right? Have you ever found yourself doing that? But Jesus' response to his disciples after the storm is over is, "Where was your faith? Believe in me. I was in the boat with you through the storm." Those storms of life you're going through, Jesus is with you in that boat. He's with you in that boat, and he's going to ride it through. He's not stressed about it. He's sleeping in the back. Oh, and we get so worked up sometimes, don't we? Because our prayers aren't being answered the way we think they should be, or we think that God doesn't care. Can we be reminded by a boat that when we turn it this way, kind of looks like a heart? God cares. Absolutely, God cares and is with us through every single storm in life and is going to see us through. We just got to keep believing. We got to keep believing. Hold on to that faith. Don't let the storms of life cause it to sink. Let's say a prayer together and close our time. Dear God, we are so thankful that you care. You are with us through every single storm that life throws at us. May we continue to trust in you. May we continue to cry out to you through every single season of life, those tense moments, and know that you are there for us. You care and you will see us through. And we're thankful for your love. In your name, amen. All right, there are some discussion questions in the video description below. You can play around with some different shapes of your boats. You could even try and race them. Just remember, if it seems like your boat's not going anywhere, you got to change the water, because the minute that there's a little bit too much soap in the water, there's no surface tension for the soap to break through to make your boat go. All right, so have fun with this, and I will see you next time.